And just in case anybody's wondering, this is Lorenzo Lopez. We are in Hollywood, right in front of Amoeba Records, if you can't already tell. You can see everything in the background, and this is, well, we're having a lot of fun with the camera. This is a one-man show. So we are going to spend a little bit of lunch inside Amoeba Records. We have a lot of things to check out. There's the bus that's leaving. Hey, he's leaving without me. Come back. Alrighty, now we're gonna go inside. Let's have lunch. And we're inside now. I decided to go over to the reggae section. We have some nice memories here. There's all kind of records to look at. I don't know, for some reason the year 1973 is on my mind. I don't know why, but I'll take a look and I'll see what I have. See, look at this, the Heptones. Remember the Heptones? This is 1973. 1973, Book of Rules album. My father bought this album, and it's a pleasant childhood memory. I thought 1973 was a rather interesting year music-wise. There was a lot taking place. It was an early period for me, but fond memories. This was 1973. Very good album. Very good album by the Heptones. Very happy with it. And this is the back of the album. Same thing. This is a reissue, but it's printed the same. Harry Johnson was the producer. Again, very good album. I have another album we have here. Ken Booth, Freedom Street. Freedom Street. This was Beverly's Records by the late Leslie Kong. As far as I know, this is the only album he recorded for Leslie Kong. I met him a couple of years ago. I had a chance to ask Ken Booth what was it like recording for Leslie Kong. He said Leslie Kong was fine. He had a good experience with Leslie Kong. The Wailers, their experience was not as pleasant, but some people did well on it. Then we have this album by the Wailers, Soul Rebels. I always liked this. Always. I always wanted like a poster of it or something. I just admired it. I admire the look of it. It's just something about it. I'm not able to articulate it, but it's something about it. Now this is the front. Speaking of 1973, what we have here is the reissue. This is the second cover. The first one was like a lighter. This one we had, and the back of the album. I thought it was interesting. When we were children, I was like, you know what? It's interesting for Jamaica to be as hot as it is. Why are they all dressed so warm? Come to find out, this picture was taken in England. It makes sense because you wouldn't need to wear a scarf in Jamaica. Under most circumstances, you wouldn't need to dress as warm as this. This album, this was Best of the Wailers, early 70s, Leslie Kong, Beverly's Records. I first heard this album at Tough Gone Records. That was the record shop that Tony Garnett used to have. He was Bob Marley's road manager for a while. We actually knew him, and I used to hang out at his record shop in Los Angeles. This was around junior high school, and he had that album, and he played the entire album. Spent a lot of time at his record shop. It's unfortunate that it didn't end well. Another album from 1973. We have Burnin', also by the Wailers. This is another album that we had. I really like Put It On. I love the beginning of the song. The 1973 version, because he did it over more than once. But I really love the beginning of that very much. There have been times when I would just play that part over and over again. It's just it's very nice, very nice. And I remember hearing this a lot on Saturdays in 1973. There was excitement because the music was just starting to reach an international audience. It was new to the vast majority of the world. Rest of My Vibration. This was the album that was current when we met him, 1976. Again, another interesting period. I will do an episode on that very soon. I spent an evening with him. We met him in 1976 here in Los Angeles. It was the night after the show at the Roxy. Met him the next evening. We did a show at the Santa Monica Civic. And in thinking about the Wailers, one thing that I thought was interesting was their appearance when it was the three of them. Because two of them were short, the other one was extremely tall. I just thought it was interesting seeing a group of three like that. One time at Venice Beach, I saw three guitarists. They were all hanging out together. There was three of them. Two of them were short, the other one was extremely tall, and they all had guitars, and they were all just kind of walking along, and that was interesting to me. Album I admired also, 1973. This was Iroy, presenting Iroy. One of my favorite childhood albums. I love the sound effects, the songs, everything about it. And to find out King Tubby was the one who did the sound effects. I felt that Iroy's best two albums were the ones that were done with King Tubby. King Tubby just had that ability. He had the ability. He was a very good producer. Very good producer. Anybody remember Dennis Al Capone? Dennis Al Capone. This is another album we had from childhood. Guns Don't Argue, 1971. This is a reissue, but it was something like this. It was an actual picture on the original issue. It was Jaguar Records, and I used to like the label. I thought they had some interesting looking record labels. This is one of them. Guns Don't Argue, Dennis Al Capone. Now, this was a very interesting person, I always felt. Mr. Jacob Miller. Jacob Miller. As a child, I just thought he was rather interesting for various reasons. Jacob Miller's singing style, and then, his appearance was a little different. He was the first large Rasta we had ever seen. Because generally speaking, most Rastas are thin. And so, his appearance was a little different to us as children. Oh, and, there's Mr. Miller again. Mr. Miller returns. Jacob Miller. Then there's also Mr. Tosh, Mr. McIntosh, Peter Tosh, or rather Sensei Peter. Sensei Peter. He's a black belt. He could have taught martial arts. Never met Peter Tosh. Never met him. I remember when we would go to Stone's Market, every so often we used to hear about him having run-ins with the police in Kingston as usual. It was not. It was rather regular. Third World. This was the current album when they came to our house in 1982. Bunny Ruggs came to our house. I sat next to him on the couch, and I asked him a couple of questions, and he was rather interested, and he found the questions I had interesting. I was about 11. I was young, very young. But this was the current album when he came to our house. It was just Bunny Ruggs himself. Bunny Ruggs and their engineer, a guy, he went by the nickname of Chucklebox, the two of them. And they came to our house. Oh, and they actually have one. They have a copy here. This is another gentleman, Mr. Wilfred Jackie Edwards. I remember hearing that my father knew him. They used to hang out, I think, at a gym in Kingston. And he and my father used to talk there. That's what I remember hearing. That's one thing. But this is an album of Jackie Edwards, Wilfred Jackie Edwards. So that's another person. And Mr. Alton Ellis. Interesting memory I have. I was at my uncle's house once, and Alton Ellis called him at that particular time I was at his house. And then we have John Holt. They don't have anything by him right now, but my uncle and John Holt were childhood buddies. They were pranksters. They used to do a lot of things when they were young. John Holt didn't get into singing until he was in high school, and I think my uncle saw him. Last time he saw him in 1967, and then he saw him again in 2000 or something like that. And that's the last time he saw him. Actually, around 2014. John Holt was scheduled to perform here in Los Angeles, and I was going to get tickets because I knew that he and my uncle knew each other from childhood, and I was actually going to get tickets for my father and my uncle to see him because I wanted to see them interact. That's just something I wanted to see with my own eyes. But before the scheduled performance, John Holt fell ill, and he was in the hospital and the show was canceled. So I understand after that he was released from the hospital, and then he did a show in England, and I think that was the last performance he did, and he died in October of 2014. So it didn't happen, but I would have wanted to have seen that. Okay, well, I guess I need to get going. You can get in trouble hanging out here. There's just so much to talk about at Amoeba Records. We're going to go out of here. Well, thanks for tolerating this, tolerating me. And indeed, a very nice way to spend lunch in Hollywood. Thanks again for tuning in. Keep watching us, and we will have more episodes done at Amoeba Music in Hollywood. So as always, thank you very kindly. Keep watching and stay tuned for further postings. Okay, and we're back outside. We're outside of Amoeba Records. It's a very fun place to be, even if you're not buying anything. It's just nice to be. Nice to be. I'm missing a lot of buses, aren't I? Hey, come back. Come back. Okay. This is a nice way to have lunch, isn't it? In Hollywood, California. Nothing else to do. Hola y buenos días a todos. Estoy Lorenzo Lopez. Esta mañana estoy caminando aquí en la Malibu. Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias por mirar el almuerzo con Lorenzo Lopez. Te necesitamos siempre. Dile a otros sobre nosotros, por favor. Por favor. Hello and good morning, everyone. I'm Lorenzo Lopez. Thank you very much for watching Lunch with Lorenzo Lopez. We need you always. And please tell others about us. We have lots of things to share, and there will be something new and exciting to see with each episode. Each episode is not just an episode. It is an experience. So we're just taking the time to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts.